If you're looking for the cheapest and most reliable Madden 22 coins on the market, check out my sponsor, MMOEXPR.com. Links are in the description, and use code JEDI at checkout for 5% off. Alrighty, hey there guys, Adrian Kasi here, aka JediBro95, coming at you guys with another video. So in this video, guys, it is going to be, well, this is not going to be a gameplay video by any means. Like, I'm not doing a Josh Gordon golden ticket gameplay. But if you guys do want to see gameplay of that Josh Gordon golden ticket, as well as every other golden ticket for the Seahawks theme team, like DK Metcalf and Russell Wilson, and maybe a developer GT or two, maybe we do get that strong safety Jimmy Graham. I doubt it at this point. But if you guys do want to see those, links are in the description for the Twitch stream, or you could just search twitch.tv/JediBro95. I do try to stream on Twitch about 3 days a week. The last few weeks, I've been streaming on YouTube, but I decided to go back to Twitch because I feel like that is the better platform in terms of streaming growth, and also it'd be a better way for interact with you guys, right? Like, because a lot of people just know me. A lot of people just go on Twitch more than they do on YouTube for streams. So, but with that being said, guys, in this video, I want to talk about big, like 5 to 10 major things for gameplay wise that need to be improved in Madden 23. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, fix the whole game, EA trash, yada, yada, yada. You know, all that cornball goofy shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not one of those people that is just a cornball goof and just says, you know, everything is broken, the game is trash, you know, yada, yada, yada. Like, you know, I'm actually going to provide, like, what is wrong and what needs to be changed. Because the truth of the matter is, you know, those type of synopsises and so those types of things, like saying that everything is garbage and all that shit, it's not progress. Like, we're not going to get what we need in terms of fixes. So that's what I hope to do with this video, guys. But before we get too deep into it, guys, again, there are still a decent amount of watching that are not subscribed to the channel, that are watching these videos, I mean, that are not subscribed to the channel. So if you guys could do me a quick favor and hit the subscribe button, please. Thank you. And also leave a like. Both things help me out in the algorithm. Both things keeping me want to make YouTube videos. And both things put this video out there for others to see if they agree or disagree with any of my takes for the videos, and whether or not they have other things that they would like to see fixed as well. So with that being said, thing number one, and this is probably the biggest thing in Madden 23 that absolutely 100% needs to be better, is deep zones. And more, it is zones coverage in general. More specifically, deep zone coverage, okay? For example, deep halves and deep thirds cannot be getting pulled down in plays by specific routes. Like, for example, inside thirds should not be getting pulled down by slants. Okay, that to me is ridiculous. That is just something you just don't do. You just never do in football, period. If you actually did that even in the high school level, let alone pros, you're benched. Like, you get benched if you care about a wheel route 15 yards away from the line of scrimmage, like 5 yards away from the line of scrimmage. That's not your role. That's not what your assignment is on that play. So you should not be worrying about that. Likewise, deep halves should not be getting pulled down by running back wheels in Madden 23. That is another problem that I have with this game that absolutely annoys me. Like, there are ways to counter it, don't get me wrong, and I'm not saying that it's impossible, but that you should not be getting bombed over the top on a deep skinny post or a deep crossing route because an inside third or a deep half isn't playing their assignment correctly, and they're caring so much about something that's happening 5 yards from the line of scrimmage that they fail to see that there's a corner route or that there's a deep post literally crossing their face and going in behind them for a TD. Like, that just should not happen. Like, you just should not have to deal with that. In my opinion, that is ridiculous. It's, I don't want to say it's exploitative, but it's just definitely something that needs to be addressed for next year. Also, just in general, flats need to play the sidelines more. More specifically, the curl flat zones, like the cloud flats and the hard flats play somewhat relatively good. You know, cloud flats are all right, except for in the red zone, which is another problem. Red zone coverage is not very good in this game. It just is not very, very good. So I would hope, again, this is just something that I hope to see fixed next year. Please, EA, fix zone coverage. That, in my opinion, should be priority numero uno for this game, not the freaking new skill-based passing system that we don't need. We don't need it, because I guarantee you that 90% of people, maybe even 99% of people that have that when they get the game, are turning that shit off because nobody wants to use that crap. But yeah, I would argue that should be priority numero uno for the game, for the developers, is that. Thing number two, guys, drop picks. This is something that absolutely boggles my mind, how people can get away with throw after throw after throw after throw in this game, and there is no repercussions or consequences because you don't get the pick. You don't catch the pick, and it's so dumb that you just have that situation to happening. Like there was in this game, and you'll probably see it. You'll probably catch up on it when we actually get to that spot. But near the end of the first half, I gave up a deep post route to this guy who literally was throwing it directly at Taylor Mays at an inside third. Mind you, Taylor Mays also has a deep out zone KO, and not only did he catch it, he got a TD out of it. So, and that was his first completed pass of the game. This guy was not very good at passing the ball. I don't want to say he was not very good in general because who knows, maybe he had a bad game or maybe he had a bad day or something. I don't necessarily know. But I do know the fact that I definitely should not have gotten away. I should not have been able to. He should not have gotten away with that. And that is a huge problem I have with this game. Is the drop picks and the lack of consistency when it comes to the pick catching. Like there will be times where you can just go like 5, 6, 7 games and not catch a pick on a guy who just keeps chucking and chucking and chucking at a specific area, despite the fact that there's somebody right fucking there. It's just so annoying. Next thing on the list, guys, running backs wheel routes. More specifically, running back wheel routes in the red zone absolutely cannot be the go-to play in the red zone anymore next year. And I have faith that it won't be because it is probably one of the three biggest. It's the third biggest complaint people have in the game this year, other than, drop picks and, lack of consistency in zone. But, drop picks is definitely something that, running back wheels definitely do need to be addressed next year. They should not be as good as they are anymore. I would argue that it is a bailout in those situations, because it doesn't matter what you do. Sometimes you cannot stop it. Like you could user it, you could play man coverage, you could put a shaded down vert hook or a hook curl. You can just straight up do anything and you still can complete the running back wheel pass. It just doesn't make sense to me whatsoever. Just a straight up stock hook curl or a stock vert hook should play a running back wheel going to the sideline, or even like breaking in the middle of the field, especially in a cover 2, because a lot of people like to do that flat wheel combo. The flat route should take care of the flat, and then the vert hook or the hook curl should be watching over the the wheel. So that is annoying. Also, you should be able to pick them off more. Especially picking off those wheels routes more. Should not need to have acrobat just to have a chance at picking off those routes. It's ridiculous to me, honestly, that we have that type of a situation going on. So I pray that it will be fixed. I have faith that it will, because that is something that we do complain about. And I have faith that a lot of these will be addressed, or at least attempted to be addressed next year. I don't think some of these will be. Some of these might fall through the cracks, but I do have faith that things like wheel routes, defensive coverages, and drop picks will absolutely be addressed next year. I have faith in that. Next thing on this list that absolutely needs to be 100% fixed next year is going to be linebackers. They must be better next year. I'm done with seeing safeties being able to play as good as a linebacker in both pass rush and coverage. In my opinion, coverage is fine. Or run defense. Coverage is okay, because obviously a linebacker is going to be better in coverage than a safety. But at the same time, a safety should not be good at stopping the run like a linebacker, or being able to pass rush like a linebacker. That should not be a thing. Next year, there needs to be more incentive to use linebackers. Just make them jump. Seriously, just make them jump, EA. I don't understand why you have it to where linebackers need lurker to jump. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm of the belief that lurker should make your linebacker user amazing, not usable, in my opinion. That's what I think. Lurker should honestly be the acrobat to linebackers, in my opinion. Lurker should be the acrobat version of linebacker version of acrobat, in my personal opinion. I think that would be the best case scenario for it. So, but hey ho, that's just me, honestly. I really don't know what you guys think about that one. Next one on this list, this is a personal preference for me because this is something that really does bother me. But players on a blitz assignment, if you're using them, should not be doing anything but blitzing the quarterback and should not be able to make a play on the ball. This is something that is a problem that I've had the last couple of years. A safety being able, a player in just a blitz and a blitz assignment in general, being able to go around and make a play on the ball. In my opinion, that should not be a thing. You should be having to play a man or a zone assignment in order to be able to go around and make a play on the ball. If you're playing as this user rusher or a safety that is in a blitz, you should be forced to blitz. And also, just this slight little add-on to that one, if you are blitzing, like say, you know how those people like to user rush the center and then peel off? If you do that, you should be forced into that engagement with the center, and you should be stuck on him for the duration of the play. So that way you basically don't get away with that crap, because like I said, it's annoying, and it just doesn't make sense to me how somebody in a blitz assignment is able to be going around and picking off a pass on an out route 10 yards down the field. Doesn't make sense to me. I think it is a little ridiculous. And I really do think EA should address that, but that's a personal one for me. I don't think they will, because I don't think a lot of people really care about it that much, which I think is a little bit weird. I think that's a little bit weird, but I can understand why people don't really care that much, because obviously blitzing changes your direction, makes you change your direction faster and whatnot. I just personally think that, well, if they got rid of that, I think that would be fine. But who knows? Next thing on this list, guys, is the smaller DBs need to matter next year. Okay, I am all for tall DBs being dominant. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, you can't teach height, and obviously, if you have the speed, you're going to be a lot more prevalent and a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for? A lot more usable. However, when it comes to defensive backs, these small DBs need to be able to make a play. You know, the small DBs should not be completely unusable and unreliable in coverage next year, okay? Even as slot corners, you know, yeah, you can use a 5'11", 6-foot-tall slot corner, and I think that's fine. But I feel like definitely you should have it to where a small DB should have a chance against a bigger receiver. I'm not saying like DJ Reed should be able to lock up Calvin Johnson. Absolutely not. But what I do think is that smaller DBs have to be a little bit more balanced. Like there needs to be more balance between the heights of defensive backs, you know what I mean, and wide receiver engagements. There needs to be a little bit more balance in that side to the smaller guys, not necessarily to the where DJ Reed is again locking up Calvin Johnson, but you know, if someone's throwing it up to a 6-foot-tall wide receiver on the outside, a 5'9" corner should be able to make a play on that more often than not, is what I think personally. But again, that one's just a personal thing for me because I really don't like the fact that small DBs are unusable, because I can't utilize guys like Quandre Diggs, or I can't even utilize guys like DJ Reed, for example, because of their size. You know, it's just unfortunate that, you know, a good amount of players in this game, like Darrelle Revis, for example, a lot of people don't really care about that card because he's 5'11", and it's kind of sad when you really stop to think about it, especially considering that Darrelle Revis is one of the greatest corners of the 2010s. So, you know, late 2000s, 2010s. But you get the point. Like, it's wild to me how they just completely irrelevant. Like, anybody like 6'2", 6'3", and lower is just completely irrelevant in this game, which I think is a little bit disingenuous, because I do think there are still some corners that are smaller that can play. Like, Deion Sanders, the greatest corner of all time, is 6 feet tall, and he's completely useless in this game because of that. And speaking of that, and the main reason that I'm getting into this is the next thing on my discussion is aggressive catches. Must be changed. Aggressive catches cannot be as prevalent and cannot be as good as they are this year anymore. Okay, I understand there were years where you could have good aggressive catches and stuff like that, and fine. But I just personally think that, you know, ag catches like that, like they need to die. They need to die out. They need to go away. It is a bailout, like you just saw on this play right here. It's a bailout for me personally, because even though I didn't get agged, I think that should have still been knocked out. And it goes back to my throwing dumb shit, throwing bad reads and not being punished for it type of thing. In my opinion, throwing stuff like that, regardless, is a bad read, and it should not be rewarded. It should be punished with an interception, you know. But hey, who am I, right? I just sit here and make content on the game and talk about it, not make the game itself. So Again, hey, who am I? But anyways, so when it comes to that, that's all I have to really say about that situation. Next one is offensive line blocking. I would like to see offensive line blocking be a lot better next year. Um, you know, I just, it's so weird and inconsistent how it's so weird how offensive line blocking is so inconsistent to me. You could have games where your offensive linemen are like, pardon me, on point. They're picking up every blitz. They're working their asses off to make sure that you don't get hit. But then there are days where they just stand there and let a free rusher come by right beside them. And it's just like, what the hell? I don't get it. It's weird. I really don't understand it. I think that should be something that needs to be changed. Um, you know, the ID the mic feature, is supposed to help with that. But this brings me to the next thing. Just get rid of the ID the mic feature. Who the hell cares about it? Like, the only people who really use the ID the mic feature are people who are trying to glitch contains or double team and inside stuff. Now the latter half, double teaming inside stuff, fine. Okay, that makes sense to me because obviously you got a problematic interior presence. You want to double team that presence to make sure that you don't get shedded instantly. However, people this year were just using the ID the mic feature and the double team aspect to just glitch contains. And that is when you have that stuff happening, that's when you know you have a problem with the system in general. The fact that you have that type of a thing being completely useless, in other words, is what I'm saying. So I do think that has to be changed next year. Please get rid of the ID the mic feature and make offensive lineman blocking good. Next we have on what I'm talking about. I cannot remember. I'm doing this off the top of my head, guys, so I do apologize. Oh yeah, man coverage cannot be good next year. I know I do have a thing against, good defense and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, man coverage is fine, but I'm of the belief that man coverage being overpowered and being good is bad for the game overall because it is the ultimate set and forget defense. You just set it up and you don't have to do anything. Your players will just play it for you. And in my opinion, that should not be how you play this game. I am of the belief that you should be able to get stops, high quality stops in zone coverage. And force your opponents into a bad decision because you made an adjustment in your zone coverage specifically for that situation, rather than having it to where you give me 1 second here. Rather than having it to where you have the inability to stop them, so you just play man and you just have the AI carry you in a game, is what I say. Next, we just have a small one here. This is just a small one for me. Identifier, I think, should not be an ability. I think it should be just baked into the game to be able to see your opponent's user. Call me biased if you want, call me weird, but I personally think that being able to see your opponent's user should automatically be built in the game. I don't think you should have to, what's the word I'm looking for? You shouldn't have to pay AP to be able to do that. The same way with linebackers jumping. You shouldn't need to pay AP just to be able to have a linebacker jump for a pick. And likewise, you should not be having to pay AP to be able to just see your opponent's user. That could probably give away some really good pre-snap information, and I could see the argument to that. However, I would like to propose two things. One, you're not seeing your opponent's entire play. You're literally just seeing your opponent's user, which could give away some pre-snap reads and give away some pre-snap identification, and that's probably why. However, I would like just to point out, well, then why are you staying in the same defense every single game? Change up your defense and stop playing the same thing over and over and over again. Because, for someone like myself, I may not be the best player in the world, but if you're going up against me and I see you staying in the same play over and over, hell, this entire game was literally a dissection of me against cover 2. Like, this guy was literally just playing Tampa 2 the entire game with maybe some adjustments in his zone drops. But once I was able to figure that out, yeah, sure, I may have done this, that, and everything. I may have varied off and did different things. But the play calls I had were for a purpose. Like, the play calls I did were to, exploit the fact that he's playing Tampa 2 and he's got his corners and he's playing different. He's playing a certain way with his coverage. So I'm just calling plays and tailoring my calls to that. So if you're playing in the same defense, if I can dot you up in that situation, because you can see right here, I got away with that one personally. But that was Carl Banks, so he's obviously not going to pick that off because he's a linebacker. But You know what I mean? Like if I can figure out a way to just dissect you over and over and over and over again for staying in the same coverage, wouldn't you think at that point, especially if you are playing in the same defense, because this guy didn't change. This guy did not change his defense. He stayed in cover two, Tampa 2, the entire game. So, like at that point, when you start getting dissected and you start getting plays called on you and you're getting dotted up consistently, why wouldn't you change? Right? Like, that's the whole point of this. Like, because if you're not doing this, if you're not adjusting like this guy didn't, I have the advantage because I know that outside corner is not coming down because he's told to drop back and get the curl route. So I'm just going to keep throwing in my flats every single time and making you have to adjust. And then once you do adjust, I'm throwing to your curls. Right? So at that point, it's like, well, maybe I should change. Maybe I should change my defense. So that's why I think identifier needs to be needs to be just built into the game. If you disagree with that, I'm completely understanding of it. I just personally think that it does need to be in the game, personally, just built in because, because of stuff like this. It is just something that, is a pet peeve of mine that people just stay in the same defense. And it's not just because it's not because I can't beat that defense. It's because, like, it's so frustrating to see people do the same shit over and over and over again. And then they wonder why they can't get a stop, right? They wonder why. Well, what can I do? Like I'm calling this play and I don't know what to do. Well, maybe you should just change up your defense in general. Like maybe you should just stop calling Tampa 2 or cover 3 sky and you should adjust your defense accordingly. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. That's what I would talk about. That's what I would think personally. Well, yeah, that's how I have to feel about identifier, being is just automatically built into the game. Also, another thing that needs to be changed as well is pre-snap notion. It needs to be able to, I wouldn't say give away your opponent's coverage, but it should be a lot more easier to diagnose your coverage pre-snap, your opponent's coverage pre-snap, because that is what motion does, is it diagnoses your opponent's coverage and tells what your opponent is in. Like, for example, if I motion, say, for example, Tyler Lockett over, if I motion him over and he's followed, then I know you're in man coverage, right? So I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna play man. I'm gonna call my routes and tailor my routes accordingly to beat man and stuff like that. And I understand if the person is base aligned. Don't get me wrong. I understand if the person is in base aligned, right? Like they are just consistently playing base aligned and they're disguising their coverage that way. I can understand in that situation. But when you're playing in a situation to where you're not base aligned, you're not doing all that extra stuff, then I got away with one there. But when you're not doing all that extra shit, then you really should be able to read a lot more easy, in my opinion, especially into high safety shells. Because if you're playing, say, cover 3 buzz, for example, say you're calling cover 3 buzz, if I motion over a receiver, well, that safety probably should come down a little bit more, right? Maybe that's just what I think. But ultimately, though, that is probably where I'm going to leave off with this. I might do a whole part 2 because there is definitely some more to this that I want to talk about. But let me know in the comments, guys, what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments below, guys. I'm always interested in hearing what you have to say, and I'm always interested in learning what your guys' opinions are, because, you guys do mean a lot to me. You guys are people that I do care about very much. Every single one of you that come into the streams, watch the videos, like the videos, and all that stuff. You guys are great, and I love you guys so very much, and I would love to see what you guys have to say about basically what I talked about. But until the next time, guys, I will see you in the next video. I'm out.